So I am about to introduce myself, politically speaking, to the world. And it's crazy because I have done public speaking for crowds as big as 17,000 people. And yet, right now, as I am about to introduce myself politically, I am terrified. My name is Dave Kerpen, and I am the candidate.
Making the right hiring or rental decision isn't just important, it's essential. At AccuData, they provide fast, accurate, and compliant background screening services that help businesses, landlords, and property managers make informed choices with confidence. From criminal background checks to employment verification and credit reports, their comprehensive screenings ensure you hire and lease with peace of mind. And with their easy to use client portal, managing background checks has never been simpler. Trust the experts who put accuracy, compliance, and customer service first. Visit AccuDataHoldings.com today and start screening smarter. What does it really take to run for local office? On The Candidate, we're pulling back the curtain on the messy, expensive, and sometimes bizarre world of local politics. Join us as we share the unfiltered truth about what happens before you see those campaign signs pop up in your neighborhood. I'm your host, Jess Milanis. We're following serial entrepreneur Dave Kerpen as he dives headfirst into the world of local politics. Ready for a change in the world? This is your opportunity to be the candidate. We are recording this the day before you go live with your candidacy. And I know that when we had talked offline previously, you had shared that you initially had started your speech off and introducing yourself in this political world by listing your many, many accomplishments. And then you realized that that wasn't really how you wanted to be introduced. So how do you want to be introduced to the constituents of North Hempstead, and how do you want to be remembered?
How I want to be remembered and how I want to be introduced. I'm somebody that's lived in this town for 16 years and raised my family here. I'm somebody that's been very active in the town in terms of serving on the school board, being an active member of my synagogue, being a coach. And yeah, I've had some really great business success, and I am proud of that. Don't get me wrong. And I do think that's helped me become a much better leader, and that will help me in the office. But I think more relevant is the fact that I care about this community that I live in North Hempstead, New York. I care about this town that I live in, Port Washington, within the town of North Hempstead, and I care so much that I'm willing to put it all out on the line, get attacked by my opponents, receive hate mail, all for a job that pays a lot less than I could make in the business world. It's because I care. It really is. And I think people go into politics for different reasons. I can't speak for everyone, but I can say that I hope one of the advantages of doing a podcast like this is that people can see the real me. And you can fake a speech, you can fake an Instagram post, you can definitely fake a sign or a mail piece, but you can't fake like 20 minutes a week of talking out loud about yourself and your life, etc. And at the end of the day, what I hope and trust people will like get from me, from this podcast at least, is like that I really care a lot about this town and making it a better place for my family and for many, many families to come. So that's how I hope I will be introduced tomorrow, as somebody that cares very deeply about this town and wants it to be a better place to live, a more affordable place to live. I think I'll have to be defined by the things that I say and the issues that I bring up as well, of course. But I think that, to your point, my business success, my success with books, with speaking, etc., it's less relevant than the fact that hopefully I have a big heart and people will see that I care very, very deeply. One good thing or bad thing about me, Jess, is that like I'm super passionate and all in on things. So like, I'm obsessed with the color orange, so I'm all in on orange. I wear orange shoes every single day. I'm all in on the Mets. I watch every minute of every Mets game and travel to see the Mets all over the place. When I do things, I don't do things half-assed. I'm all in. And so right now, I'm all in on this race. and hopefully serving the community.
I love that. And I would say too, just with my experience in knowing you, now I know you through my mentor, your wife, but even before that, I could see the deep care that you have for people, for your community, for impact, like leaving a bigger impact. And that's why I think this podcast idea so resonated with you of let's make this a bigger impact than just like a tell-all. Um, so yeah. All right. I want to like go back a little bit and talk about the speech writing process. So you are an established keynote speaker. You have spoken to your largest crowd was 17,000. How are you writing this speech compared to those speeches? And are you getting any help in writing those speeches?
Yeah, maybe too much help, but but no, I'm definitely getting help. I mean, the first thing I think about when I'm writing a speech for anyone is like, who's the
Mm.
audience, and what are their needs. So my audience for this speech are Democratic leaders and the media. It's my opportunity to kind of set the stage for the issues that matter to me most and how I'm going to frame the campaign for those audiences. And I think that's really it's ultimately it's really important to know your audience. It's funny because one of the people that's helping me calls it a stump speech, and I said, I hear you, and yeah, to a certain extent there can be a stump speech, but you know, the speech that I give is going to be very different if I'm speaking for hardcore Democrats versus a broad section of town versus my synagogue versus a mosque. I have to really think of my audience in mind, right? That's one thing I've learned as a speaker is to know your audience, know what their needs are, etc. That being said, of course, the core messages are really important, and I think at least what I was told, which made sense to me, was like best practice was three core issues that I'll repeat, and that will be the theme of the campaign. And of course, those will change over time as I listen to people and get their feedback. But it's like less than three feels not very substantial, and like way more than three, like people can't even remember what somebody's talking about. So that's where I landed on three. Yeah, I have a team of two people that are like Democratic leaders. We'll probably have them on. They listened to the first episode and loved it. So kudos to you, Jess. And we'll probably have them on as guests at some point. Actually, I have a feeling we haven't discussed this offline, but I have a feeling we'll have some really interesting guests for this thing as we go. But they're leaders that have kind of been around the block and know the town well, and so um, sorry, real time. I just got up and running with Act Blue, which is really exciting. Sorry, but that's kind of a cool moment, actually. Like, wow, I can raise money. Yay!
Ooh.
And my treasurer's calling, probably with the good news.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm actually recording our podcast right now. So, um, of course, we won't air anything unless you agree later. But if you say something that is interesting, we may use it in our podcast if you're okay with it.
Okay. Well, I wanted to tell you that AppBlue is up and running. I just
Yay!
sent you an email giving you access. If you can go in, set yourself up, and then maybe have somebody make a donation now to see if it's all working properly.
Well, that is very, very exciting. I will. The big question is, who will be the very first person in the history of humanity to donate to vote for Dave Kerpen for the town of North Hempstead supervisor? This is very exciting, actually, Jen.
There we go. There we go.
Well, thank you again. You're a rock star. You did that so quickly, and I really, really appreciate you. Um,
That's glad I got it done. So happy. Very proud. Very happy. Very happy. So I will be there tomorrow. I will get to meet you in person. And yeah, just make sure it's working properly. I can check in later.
yeah, I don't know if it's a link or a widget or something, but I'll give it to my website people. Presumably, they can figure out how to integrate it.
They have it. Yeah, there's a QR code I think you can download. There's also the link that's there, and they could do whatever they need to. Yes.
And is this the same thing as that software you mentioned, or I need that software also, the
You need
NP?
that. Yeah, NTP. You need that software. Definitely need that software. NTP. And it'll house, like, if you buy somebody's list of donors, we can upload. Your campaign guys can upload all that information. You can blast emails, texts, and all that kind of stuff. And then have an accounting also of how much they donate, and then I prepare the return. Sorry, not tax return. The filing using that software.
All
I'm
right.
sure
Well,
you can.
thanks again, Jen. I'll respond to your email later, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Sounds great, Dave.
Okay.
Take
Bye bye.
care. Okay, bye.
Well, that was actually an exciting live moment, and I actually hadn't given any thought, Jess, to who I would. It's almost like an honor.
And now, back to the show.
So they know the town, and so I did a draft. They made a bunch of suggested edits. You know, I think on the one hand, like you said, I've been doing writing and giving speeches for a long time, so I feel like I'm good at it. On the other hand, I am dedicated to always getting better and evolving, and certainly this was my first foray into this particular type of speech. So I was and am very open to feedback. Actually, the big issue right now in this speech, and I still haven't fully decided on this, and it's actually related to one of the other topics we were talking about, is the extent to which I'm going to address this recent rally we had, because it has been divisive, and the idea, behind the speech is really to rally people and unite people. And anything that would be divisive feels like it's potentially contrary to uniting people. So I get that. And it's hard because I do feel very, very passionately about defending the rights to be Jewish and not face anti-Semitism and hate. I think that's a really, really important issue to me. And at the same time, to the extent that it seems to be divisive because of what just a couple of knuckleheads said at the rally, they had used hate speech themselves, and that unfortunately cast a shadow on the event. So that's made it divisive. I mean, to me, on the one hand, it's pretty clear cut. Hate speech of any kind shouldn't be tolerated, and any organization that supports hate speech shouldn't be tolerated. Right? That seems very clear cut. But I think, realistically speaking, I know that there'll be Democrats in the room that are very sensitive to feeling like there might be Islamophobia creeping in, for example. And so, I haven't decided whether I'm going to mention it or not, to be quite 100% honest. I just, it's a hard one for me because I do feel very, very strongly about it. And I also feel I need to come out very clear that I am not a liberal woke person. And if you're doing Oppo research right now, don't edit that out. I said I am not. I'm a centrist. I'm a moderate. I've been. I would have called myself a moderate, my whole life. And so at a time where being a Democrat is like a dirty word to a lot of people, and certainly I won't even say the L word on the.
Yeah, we won't go.
Not even gonna say it.
We
Not
can't
even gonna say it.
get a clip, but yeah, I mean, I think that to your point, in terms of integrating all the different levels of who you are as a person, while looking at it through the lens of politics, just makes it incredibly challenging to create this cohesive speech. Because we do live in an oppositional world. Everybody wants to see black or white. Nobody understands the nuances or wants to understand the nuances of the human experience. And they're looking for their leaders to either be one side or the other. You can't have a nuance stance.
It is harder than ever, I think, to not only be nuanced but communicate nuance, right? It's a time of, and this is why this podcast is cool, but it's a time of sound bites. So people watch 10-second clips, 15-second clips on Instagram or TikTok, and that's their understanding of someone's position. And the reality is, in almost every situation, there is a lot of nuance. There just is. So, but if I have a 5-minute speech, I can't communicate nuance that well. So I need to say, okay, these are 3 things that I care about very deeply, that I am confident that I can make an impact on, and that I am confident will impact our town in the best way possible. So, those 3 things, as right now at least, if I gave the speech right now, they would be, making it easier for small businesses to open, cutting through a lot of the red tape to make it easier for small businesses to open and thrive in our town, building a much more responsive, transparent, likable government, taking the values that I've literally been writing about and speaking about and practicing in businesses for the last 15 years and implementing them into government. My third area of focus for my speech, I mean, this is an interesting one because the consultant said I need at least one Republican talking point. And I was like, well, I don't know what a Republican talking point is anymore, but I know one thing I feel very strongly about is actually cutting taxes and making government more efficient. Good news, I guess that's a Republican talking point. So my third area is cutting taxes and maintaining or even increasing services. And the way I'm going to do that is using technology and innovation to make government much more efficient than it currently is. Like, this is a big, big pain point for me as an entrepreneur, seeing how poorly I mean, like, in my experience, the bigger an organization in general, the worse they run on the corporate side. But nobody runs as poorly as governments. And it's interesting because, love them or hate them, right now, the federal government is going through a serious efficiency examination, to say the least. And quite honestly, my plan, once elected, is to on a much smaller level look at all the incredible waste that we have and make sure that government is much more efficient. To look at ways to use technology and AI to make government more efficient and ultimately be able to offer that tax savings to our town. So, government more efficient and affordable, more affordable taxes, more likable, responsive, transparent government, and making it easier for small businesses to open, thrive, and stay in business for a long time in our town. Those are the 3 items that I'll be talking about. And I may or may not give a shout out to the recent protest and hate and tolerance, etc.
Starting your morning with back-to-back meetings? Dunkin' has been keeping America's leaders moving for generations. Try our new brown sugar cookie cold brew, topped with brown sugar cold foam. Smooth, bold, and perfectly balanced. Pair it with a fresh baked croissant when you need that extra boost. Join DD Perks through the Dunkin' app or at dunkin.com and start earning rewards on every purchase. The candidate runs on Dunkin'.
So,
It's just so sad to me that it even needs to be said that hate is condemned. Hate of all forms is condemned. Period.
it's kind of crazy, but it's crazy that it needs to be said. But I will probably say it, and I will, even at the risk of slightly diluting the anti-Semitism message, I will say it. I will say it to be super, super clear. And I probably will say it with this caveat again. Like, this absolutely should not need to be said. And yet, here in February of 2025, it does need to be said. I condemn anti-Semitism of all kinds. And of course, I condemn Islam and Islamophobia of all kinds and any hate of all kinds. Condemn it. No place in our town. That was the chant I was leading, by the way. It was
Yeah.
no place for hate. No place for hate is the mantra, and you would think that all parties would agree upon that and all people would agree upon that, and yet it does seem to be divisive. But oh well, again, that's the world we live in.
So you said that you needed to have one Republican talking point in there, and your audience for this speech is Democratic leaders of your town and the media. How do you perceive the Republicans are going to actually look at this speech? And shouldn't they be considered as part of the audience because you are a centrist and you are trying to convert Republicans over into your campaign?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the challenge. The challenge is threading that needle because those are ultimately very different
Yeah.
audiences. The media essentially is going to take whatever I say and magnify it to everyone, right, in the town, or everyone that reads consumes the media. Which who knows how many people consume traditional media anymore? But I digress. So 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 this is why I can't just do Democratic Party line. I mean, the Democrats have been losing at every step of the way. So even though there'll be hardcore Democrats in the room, I need to be I need to I need to be aware of the fact that the media will send a message to everyone in the town. And to your point, Jess, I need to win some Republicans. I need to win some independents, and hopefully I keep the Democrats. But ultimately, here's the thing: at the end of the day, there could be Democrat points, Republican points, et cetera, et cetera. I am not a career politician. And hopefully, anyone that's listening or watching this podcast is not a lifelong politician. They're a human being like you and me that will choose to sort of hear the Democrat points and the Republican points as I am hearing, and then share my own points that are actually what I think and feel and believe. Right?
Yeah.
Like I can I can I can consider that this point might be a so-called Democrat talking point or a so-called Republican talking point. But at the end of the day, they're my points. They're what I believe in. And I need to I need to take a stand on what I believe in. And what I'm not doing this to try to straddle both sides and like be everything to everyone. I recognize that I am gonna piss some people off, and that's okay. I can't be everything to everyone. I need to be true to who I am, what I believe, and what I believe will be most helpful to the town. And like that's hard, believe it or not, because it's. I think a lot of politicians probably get lost in the trying to be all things to all people, making promises, sort of like, oh, someone's going to vote for them or someone's going to write them a big check. Well, oh, sure, I'll take care of you or whatever. But that to me, that's just not the that's not why I'm doing this. So certainly, I hope that I can maintain, always be true to myself. It's like really, really important to me. And I said to Carrie, because you know, I'm sure these consultants telling me, what they think I should say is just the very beginning. I'm sure I'm going to get a ton of that in the campaign to come. But I said to Carrie, who I can always trust, like, hey, if you ever sense for 1 second that I'm compromising anything that I believe in, like check me on it. Like that's not who I want to
Yeah.
be.
I was just writing a note furiously down because I wanted to remember it. And you've built this whole persona on Likeable. And I think most people are going to think Likeable means that you are trying to appeal to everybody. But what I hear from you and what I see in you is that Likeable is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on who you are, what you believe in, and being true to yourself. And that's how you develop the most likable parts of you. And that's how you become likable to others versus the
Yeah.
inauthenticity that we see so often in other politicians.
Yeah. So I'm gonna grab my a book on this. Hopefully, it doesn't look too awkward on camera. So this is my uh, best reviewed book of my 5 books and my worst selling book. Turns out that um, everyone judges a book by its cover, and it's a lousy cover. Nobody bought the book, but it's the best reviewed book. So by like objective standards, I can say it's my best book. And I talk about principles of being a likable leader in this book. And my plan is to apply all of these principles to government. It doesn't mean I need to be liked by everyone, but it does mean in my philosophy of what it means to be a likable leader that you embrace these 11 principles that I talked about. So those principles, first and foremost, number one, by far, is listening. Like, communication is 50% talking, but the other 50% is listening. And so often people lose sight of that, especially elected leaders. Like, my goal is to listen to everyone and find out what their needs are, right? Storytelling, being able to captivate people by telling great stories. Authenticity, being true to who I am, as you said. Transparency. Oh my goodness, it's such a buzzword. People actually use this word all the time, including my opponent. But like, so few people are actually transparent. Like, I'm doing a podcast. I'm literally sharing my innermost thoughts, and that won't. I'm always gonna share. So that transparency is key. Team playing, right? Like working as a team. The board meetings right now are like people yelling at each other. And I said to a reporter who interviewed me the other, just yesterday, like day one, I'm gonna sit down with everyone, both sides of the aisle. I'll be like, we're a team. We're working together. We're going to collaborate. That's how things go now. Responsiveness, like acting quickly and responding. I'm not always going to have the answers, but I can always acknowledge people, like when they come. Adaptability, moving quickly and changing with the times. Passion, you already know I'm all in. Surprise and delight, doing things like unexpected. Simplicity and gratefulness, which is always the one I always close with listening, and I always end with gratitude, because gratitude has been such a big part of my life, and I want to share that with the whole town, with the whole world. I mean, to me, the gift of gratitude has been like, it's a total game changer for me on just being a happier human. And I'm not sure how I'll work that into government yet, but I will. I'll find a way. Sorry, I digress, but I get excited about the principles of what I call likable leadership, and I do really believe that um, they're applicable not only to business but to government.
I want to wrap with, if you could pick one moment from your speech that you hope goes viral, makes headlines, is the most impactful, what do you hope that's going to be?
Wow, that's a great question, and I probably would have said how passionate I was about small business, um, had you asked me that 15 minutes ago. But having just gone through my rant about how strongly I feel about business, about government being able to be more likable, I hope that it can be a bit about what I just said about how and I'm gonna add, honestly, Jess, I'm gonna add that to my speech, right? I think I mentioned transparency and responsiveness in my current draft of the speech, but I think I'm maybe not all 11, but close to all 11 of my principles of likable leadership, and I feel really passionately about that. And we need more leaders like that. So hopefully, if that goes viral, you never know.
I love it. And we'll be sure to link the Likeable Business book in the show notes, because that sounds like a book that we all need.
Well, you say that, but thank you. But as soon as anyone sees the cover, they won't buy it. It's true story, but it's fine. I don't mind at this point. Um, Jess, thank you as always. You're the best. And I don't know if we're telling people to subscribe yet, but I think we should add that. Reminding
Yeah.
people to subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. That when people subscribe, it like makes our day. And I believe new puppies are born every time that somebody subscribes and leave. And I believe that
Rainbows and unicorns are
rainbows,
created.
unicorns, and kittens all come if somebody leaves a review. True story. True story.
Oh,
Yeah.
this, you know what? My child is going to love that.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna
leave
happen.
a bunch, people, and
Leave a
my
bunch.
child will be very happy.
Thank you in advance.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dave. And thank you all for listening to The Candidate. Thanks for going behind the scenes with us on The Candidate. If you enjoyed getting the real story about running for office, take a moment to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Your support means the world to us. See you next time. Everyone's career path is different. Whether you're transitioning into public service or building your professional network, LinkedIn helps you make the right connections. Showcase your experience, discover new opportunities, and join conversations that matter in your industry. With LinkedIn Premium, you get insights about who's viewing your profile and advanced search filters to help find the right people. Start expanding your professional network today at linkedin.com. LinkedIn, connect to opportunity.